circular, traditional flap is what I'm saying.
Right.
So the key here on this, see that white line that I drew? That's the problem with these cases, is most of them are like this. They're cupped in like this. And so you put the implant in here, you're either going to have not enough thick bone. So really almost every one of them needs augmentation out here on this, in this premaxilla. From here to here, they all need grafting for long-term stability. So what we do is on a model, we take an impression, I draw on here where the tissue heights are going to end up. I take a burr, I shape that, then we do a wax up, wax it up, then do the wax up, and then I make a copyplast matrix. See how I've sculpted this? That's because it goes in the mouth and I might need to sculpt the tissue. But this is the impression copings. This is the screw retained temporary. The day goes in, see it's blanching. Notice how I've shaped it and I've created space for this papilla to come in. So that's an ideal screw retained provisional because we can shape the tissue. So it sits there like that for maybe a few months, however long we need it to. And now I fabricate these zirconia abutments, prep the centrals because they had endo, and we were trying to create symmetry. And this is her day of seeing.
Can you go back a picture? Real quick? Forward, sorry.
Here?
Yeah. You ever have a problem with the zircons coming out the facial sometimes on the implant angle like that?
Like this one?
Yeah.
It looks like the trajectory is kind of facial, but I think it's kind of the photo. Because yeah, if it was like that, then it wouldn't look very
Look at
aesthetic.
that distance, though. He's got still facial ton of room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see
Between
that.
that. Yeah, he's got a lot of room there.
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit of the angle of the extra of the film. And then there she is all done. Pretty good outcome, I think. And so she goes from there to there. And then she came back with this too. We didn't do that though.
I gotta start making all my teeth longer. Teeth are more simple.
But you know, sometimes these things that are projected on the screens, the teeth tend to look longer. I noticed that in a lot of lectures. So here's a case where this patient had root resorption and the endodontist said both these teeth need to come out. But look at this issue. We got a width problem here, gingival height issue. So we got to do some soft tissue work. How do we do that? Well, this is the final outcome, what we were able to achieve. So you see where we were able to get symmetry. We did 4 restorations. But how did we get to that point? See this shaping of the tissue? If we were to put a central incisor in there, it would kind of look like that, wouldn't it? The profile, it's not round, it has that emergence. So we create that in the lab, and then what I do is I take the temporaries out, and I drop an analog in there, and I'll send this to the lab. So if I spend all this time shaping all that, like I've done, and I don't want to just trust that the lab is going to give me that, I'll make this for them, and I'll send it with the case and say, make sure that this profile fits in there so they maintain that.
So you don't do the customized impression coding technique?
I mean, I can, I've done it.
Yeah, that's the one that I did, where you just
Yeah.
put the impression coping
Yeah.
and do flowable and so.
And you could do the same thing with that right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've done it both ways. This is the quick, lazy way. But if you want to just take an impression coping, like you said, and flow it around
So
there.
you think this is faster and easier?
Mm,
Because I thought this one was more complex than just putting flowable and so with the impression coping on there.
Well, I don't know. To me, sometimes it's kind of it's bloody and you get voids, and I don't know. That's the only reason. If I go outside the mouth and I just screw an analog in here on the end of this, and then I fill this up with jet bite or something,
yeah.
and then I just
You just send just that to them? As
yeah,
well
and
as-
then,
as well as their normal
then I
impression?
put this back in the mouth and I just send this to them. So either one works. The benefit of what you're doing is now you're taking an impression with those copings that are anatomically
Also
shaped,
in the
and that's all in one model.
Yeah, correct.
What they have to do here is they have to make it and they have to retrofit that.
And you just send them an extra set of analogs to go with it?
Well, they're in there.
They're in
Do
there.
they need it for the other one to pour out?
No,
Yeah.
those are-
Yeah.
So honestly, I think your way probably has the most merit, and
But
I've
that,
certainly done it that way.
like you said, that sofa was pretty bloody. I don't know how you.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get that to.
The problem I've had sometimes is when I'm trying to get that much material down in there, and, you know, the thing is about these, my girls know, like, once we take that out, that tissue wants to collapse pretty fast.
Yeah.
It's like we're fighting time, because sometimes I'll go and I'll reach for a product like this, and I'll take these in and I'll just squirt it in there. I'll just squirt it right in there just to hold the space while we're working, so everyone can relax, so we're not having all this collapse. Because we work so hard to create it, and we don't want it to start to do this, because, you know, if you just start doing other teeth and stuff, you go in and an hour later, and it's like, you can't hardly see that hole anymore, it's just gone.
So I have a question. Were those immediately made provisionals at were they immediate placement? Those provisionals you made, or did?
Probably what happened is the surgeon placed these, and he took an impression for me that was, you know, somewhat like a fixture level impression, and then I just go in the lab, like some of the other cases I was showing you, and I just make the provisionals.
Well, I guess so. My question is.
So maybe the next day, I try to do it within a day or two.
Okay, so like if I'm doing a 2-stage where I bury the implants and then I want to put provisionals on there, is it harder to get that emergence?
They'll just maybe have a little harder time getting them seated, because, you know, that tissue's, you know, collapsed around more.
Yeah.
So what I would do is you know, you might need to take a laser or something, and then crank them down a little bit, and then let it sit, and then crank it down a little bit more. You might have a hard time getting it to place.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm rushing, but I got a lot to get through. I want to not cut certain things short. Here's another lateral incisor. So this patient had ortho, congenitally missing laterals. If you want to start doing a lot of these kind of cases, form some relationships with orthodontists. These orthodontists see a truckload of congenitally missing laterals, and my biggest source of referrals for these cases are orthodontists. You know, take some photos of your cases so they're comfortable, you're going to get a nice result, and they'll refer them to you. This is just a diode laser shaping the tissue on the pontics that that's bonded on because it needed more height. And then, so here's basically that peak type cone, cutting it down to the height we want. And then what I'll do is I'll take flowable. After I've shaped the tissue, I'll take flowable, I'll inject it down in here at the interface, cure it, and then I'll take some cotton or something in here, and then I'll take a copyplast, fill it in, and seat it down in there. That's how I make the screw retain temporary. And take it out, polish it, trim it up.
With Visacryl or flowable?
Visacryl.
Well,
So typically it'll have flowable down in here. Sometimes I'll even use pink flowable or just two colored. And I'll inject it down as far as I can get it. Then I'll do the other on top of it, and then when it cures, I'll punch a hole through the top to access it, unscrew it, and then I'll take it out. Invariably there'll be some voids and some spots. Just take some flowable and kind of patch those up by hand polish them. I like the rubber pumice wheel. I can just shape that profile real nice.
After you seat the suck down and make the temporary there, then you just cut through the label to find the hole?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can kind of see through it. It's
Yeah,
kind of
all right,
thin.
all right.
But I put cotton in there.
You don't do this in the mouth ever, you like doing it on the model if you can?
No, I never do it in the mouth. It's a bloody mess.
I know.
It's a bloody mess, and everyone I've ever seen down, it's just not, they don't get the tissue moving around enough. It's just, it's a compromise. So I love to work on the model. Not only that, I'm back in my lab. I don't have to be on stage talking to people. I'm just in there doing my thing.
I like that you can cut the papilla, or cut the pink stuff with your burr, and you can really just shape it. You can create a footprint that's identical to the
Yeah.
biologically identical
Yeah.
footprint.
It's super fun.
Because
I
you know,
actually
you
like
know what
it.
they look like, right?
Yeah.
You just cut them.
So that's what it is, right? So that's that product. I've shaped it.
Right.
And then there's one seated. See how that tissue's collapsing already? And notice the shape. This is the key right there. You got to create that. And then this is when the zirconia abutments went in. And then there's her finals.
Are you prepping those abutments or your lab's doing all that?
Lab will do it. I let them do it. They know how much space they need. Okay. Here's another one. External root resorption, hopeless central. Patient goes into ortho, and I'm putting this screw retain temporary in while she's still in ortho. Basically, same thing, you're seeing just the way they're shaped, the way they're polished, the way they're made, screw into place, and then this is her final, after her ortho came off. All right, you wanna take a short break before we get into the hybrids?
Sure.
Unless you guys are
That's
saying
cool
we've
stuff.
got enough.
I like it.
What time is it?
Some good temper stuff.
Yeah, I haven't done much immediately loading.
I
just
know,
'cause
they
I've
go
always
by.